Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to Actio's webinar today on Agentic AI. It is a popular and important topic. We have registrations for the webinar from North America. We are expecting people to join in from Europe, Africa, the Middle East, South Asia. I am quite looking forward to the conversation today. We've assembled a panel which is quite accomplished, has experience in the space of deploying AI in corporate strategy management. Without much ado, I would like to introduce our panel for today's webinar. We have Adriana Pacchielli with us. Adriana is a business performance and TQM expert. She brings over 20 years of experience in designing and implementing business performance management systems across the Americas. So Adriana has worked with Burger King Corporation, helping them with their TQM and excellence programs in the United States. And as of today, Adriana is the co-founder of SigMachine, which is an AI-based business intelligence and corporate management platform. At the same time, Adriana is also the founder of Pangea Consulting, which is based in Miami, USA. Adriana, it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. We also have on the panel Daljit Saran. So Daljit has worked extensively with large reputed consulting organizations. He was with Boston Consulting Group as a principal. He has spent time with Deloitte. Daljit was the Senior Vice President for Strategy and Transformation at Moody's Corporation. Currently, Daljit works independently as a consultant, has his own consulting firm, which works with organizations, helping them with AI-powered transformations. And his clients are across the sectors of financial services, healthcare, and technology. In the past, Daljit has led some global transformation initiatives, which have generated over $750 million in revenue, and have helped his clients achieve over $500 million in cost efficiencies. Daljit is quite skilled in embedding AI and automation into business models. And we are looking forward to talk to him and hear more about his experiences with these rapid advances we are seeing in the space of generative AI and agentic AI. Thank you, Daljit, for joining us today. And we look forward to the conversation with you.
Vijay, and to the Actio team, thank you very much. And I appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation, learn from Adriana, from Guy, and others, and just have a constructive dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure having you with us, Daljit. Next on the panel, we have Guilherme Barbassa, right there, Guilherme is, hi, good to see you, Guilherme. So Guilherme is the CEO of Actio, which is an enterprise software company. Actio works with some very large multinational clients, such as Unilever, Gerdau Steel, Hunter Douglas, has a global presence. And he himself comes from a strategy and consulting background. He was previously a partner at Falcone Consulting and has advised some of the largest national and multinational organizations in South America and beyond. And currently, his work focuses much on transforming management models into digital and scalable frameworks that can drive results and align people, operations, and strategy across the enterprise. And this vast experience that Guilherme has through consulting with national level organizations across the public and private sector, which have culminated in the creation of Actio and the comprehensive platform that Actio is able to provide to its client for managing strategy execution at the enterprise level, draws a lot from his personal experience of working with several enterprises as a consultant. So thank you, Guilherme, again, for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining this conversation today. We have a very interesting panel, a panel with a lot of experience and which is actively working in the generative AI, agentic AI space. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation today, and I hope so are the audience. Once again, I would like to welcome all the people who have joined this webinar. I see that we have people joining us from different parts of the world. The one thing that I would request to all the people who have taken time out and joined us for this conversation today is to share their experiences and their questions as we proceed with this discussion in the chat window itself. And towards the end of the webinar, I will request the panel to address these questions which our participants have. So we want to keep this quite engaging, and I would welcome the questions from the participants today. Please share them in the chat window, and we will address those questions towards the end of the webinar. And we might also draw on some of your experiences as this conversation proceeds during the next hour. So without any further delay, I would like to set the background for the conversation by in fact requesting Adriana, who's the co-founder of SigMachine. SigMachine is developing agentic AI-based tools to help corporate strategy management, and I think, Adriana, we could really learn from you that how should one differentiate between regular automation, generative AI, agentic AI, especially AI. It suddenly came into our lives. Corporates have been trying to clear the ambiguity around generative AI and agentic AI. We've been trying to both figure out what the capabilities are and the differences are, and at the same time implement these solutions for improving corporate ability. So it would be great if you could give us some background on, okay, what is agentic AI, what is generative AI, how do we differentiate between these, how do we understand their capabilities and use cases?
Okay, nice. Thank you, Vijay. So let's start saying that stating a difference between agentic AI and conventional automation.
Yeah.
So when we talk about artificial intelligent agents, they can autonomously set and pursue goals in a dynamic environment, while for conventional automation, they just follow predefined rules in a fixed scenarios. So this, by saying that, I start my conversation, but to really understand that, we need to contextualize with the technology advancements that led to the intelligent machines. So if we start with the conventional automation, it uses the traditional programming as the foundation, right? So it's required to have a developer to write a rule-based code in order to deliver an answer. So that has evolved with computer vision and robotics and natural language. So now we have, for instance, the early Siri and Alexa assistants, or chatbots customer service. So those solutions, they rely on a rule code base, but they use the decision trees and the predefined scripts along with API calls to fetch data. And they use natural language to interact already with the users, but they still need the input of the developer. So their evolution is limited by the condition of the developer to upgrade the code, right? So the turning point here for the intelligent machines was really the artificial neural network. Because now, so what it is, the ANN? So it is an algorithm that mirrors the way that our brain learns with the synapses of our neurons. So this algorithm, what it does, it allows the machine to learn directly from data. So we gave the opportunity now for the machine to learn on itself with the data, with the experience of data. So that was the turning point. So with that, this ANN has accelerated the development of natural language processing, also computer vision and robotics, and has has led to the large language models and the transformers that paved the way for the generative AI. So now we have AI assistants that are able to learn from the experience. And we all have those Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini on our devices in all our daily routines. So what is going on now? We are giving the algorithm the opportunity to learn with each interaction with the user, to learn and develop itself. So that, and we've seen how fast this is developing, right? So now it has multi-modalities, so it can deal with all type of data, videos, images, sound, text, anything you name it. But still, it's not autonomous. It needs the input of the user to deliver the task. So what comes next is really a powerful combination between the conventional automation and the generative AI. And this will then give place for the agentic AI. So when we add to this combination a specified learning, a large language model, a specialized model to orchestrate this integration between the conventional automation and the generative AI, now we have AI agents that are capable to decide, plan, and execute autonomously. So more we give the generative AI the ability to orchestrate all these interactions of this model, this architecture, with reaching out to informational systems, to the algorithms, to the codes for the automation, to the user interaction. More we give this autonomous ability for the generative AI to orchestrate this architecture, more autonomous it will become. So that will open a realm of opportunities for specific developments, because now we are able to, so we've seen that the generative AI has the capability to generate regional content, and has developed in terms of research and giving, a high level responses to our requests. But now with the Agentic AI, we'll be able to specify solutions that the generative AI is not able to deliver on its own.
Thank you, Adriana. That's very helpful. So in my mind, the explanation that you gave helps me understand that with autonomous or automation, right? So it is a human who defines the rules and defines the triggers, and that is what limits automation, right? There are triggers, and then there are rules that determine the action. In the case of automation, with agentic AI, we are perhaps giving objectives to the agentic AI and say, this is what we want to achieve, and agentic AI is able to exercise choices like any human, of course, because it is capable of learning, right? So we are seeing this huge shift where practically, right, we are not telling agentic AI how to get from point A to point B, which is in the case of automation, right? We say this happens, this is the decision tree and everything is coded in. With agentic AI, you just tell, let's say, this is what we want to achieve as the objective, right? And we rely on the agentic AI to make those intelligent choices as any other human being. Yeah, Guilherme, go ahead.
So, by what Adriana focused is like the difference between agents, AI agents, and automation process. Automation is like deterministic, as she said, and AI agents, the agent itself is autonomous, right? It makes decisions by itself. I'd like to change the focus a little bit to what's the difference between the chatbots and the agents, right? Because between automation and agents, the key word is autonomous, right? It makes decision by itself. Chatbots and agents, I think the key word is action, right? The chatbots aren't able to take action on themselves, by themselves, right? While the agents, they are able to take action. They are able to monitor the environment, collect data, make decisions, right? Reason, and give an output that is an actual action, not just a text, right? So people got very used to the chatbots, right? To the interface where they come in, put in a question, get the answers with the generic AIs in the market. The big difference when we talk about these tools that people are very used to using and the agents, I understand, is the capability of taking action, right? Do you agree? Would you like to compliment Daljit or Adriana on this big difference between chatbots and agents?
Yes.
Guilherme.
Go ahead, Adriana.
Go ahead, Daljit. No, I will only add that so the other than the ability to act from the agentic AI, it also, more than interacting only with users as the assistants or chatbots do, it also interacts with other agents. And this opens a new world of opportunities for action.
Thanks. Daljit, any thoughts you would like to share at this point?
No, I think Adriana covered the mess. Thank you.
Thank you. I suppose this is a good time to check with our audience what is their level of familiarity with AI agents. Right, there's been a lot of talk about using AI agents in the corporate environment for achieving different objectives. So perhaps we could conduct a quick poll to get a sense of if the audience we have on this webinar today has any experience with AI agents. I would love to know if your organization has used AI agents. We might have people who are familiar with the use of AI agents in their organization, or their organizations might be considering the use of AI agents. And then, of course, like there would also be a lot of us who are still trying to figure this out and don't have much understanding of how precisely AI agents could make a difference in what they are doing. So it would be great to have your responses to this poll that we see on the screen right now.
I see that everybody's familiar with the concept, be it because they're already using it or they are planning to use it, right? So it's
yeah, I see that.
We have an advanced audience here.
Yeah. And I think that is where most of us are at this point in time. I think it is unlikely for anyone to not be aware or familiar with agentic AI today, but of course also to know exactly that how it can be utilized fully to achieve very specific objectives within a corporate setup might be a bit of a stretch, and not denying the fact that there are organizations which are further ahead in the curve, and we see that in this poll as well. We have about 22% of the audience here today which has experience with the use of agentic AI, so that's fantastic. And then we see that so it's a binary, right? So either there are people who are using agentic AI or have seen agentic AI in action in their organizations, or there are people which are seeing active efforts in the direction of implementing agentic AI. We don't see a third or fourth category which has absolutely no understanding of agentic AI or is not considering the use of agentic AI, which is quite understandable. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us through this poll. And now move on to something more concrete in terms of, okay, we understand automation, generative AI, agentic AI. We understand where each of these fall. My next question would be, to Daljit, right, who's helping organizations quite actively, deploy AI for achieving their strategic objectives. So Daljit, can you help us understand that, how perhaps agentic AI can assist leaders in the formulation of strategy? What is the role that we see emerge for agentic AI in this space?
Vijay, thank you very much for teeing up that topic. As Adriana outlined the scope of what agentic AI is, right? And Vijay talked about in his introduction how quickly AI and vocabulary has become so common everywhere in these times. So I think of evolving AI from a tool to AI being an agent of strategy definition and execution, right? Like, and Vijay, I don't try to differentiate between definition and execution because they should inform each other for a period of time, right? What I have seen in my practice with working with companies is agents are getting very good at certain levels of scale to interpret goals, generate options, and act autonomously, right? So that is a learning curve that they're going through, right? It's case by case. Adriana also talked about multi-step workflows, right? So that's also I'm beginning to see that agents are becoming very good at both autonomously as well as with supervision about what scope is going on with regards to, I look at market scanning, scenarios being developed, and then influencing the strategy, right, by either writing a memo around what I observed versus not, right? So that's what's going on. And then at the end of the day, it's humans, right? So these agents have become really sophisticated or becoming really sophisticated where they're able to interpret data, inform, and how do you implement parts of the strategy. So that's the context on that. So now, Vijay, to answer your question on the strategy development side, right? Like these topics sound very lofty, but when you start executing it, right, I take examples that make it sense, right? So the first example in strategy development. So I have a current engagement. I'm working with a large CPG company on helping them identify and define their pricing engine, right? So essentially what you charge. And some of that is essentially looking at historical data. Some of that is also looking at competitive positioning and figuring out where there are portions on the pricing curve that are under optimized, or essentially you could introduce newer ways of product assortment, right? So you have a pack of 50 cents. Can you introduce a $1 product, right? So running simulations, tests on new strategy, taking into account everything that they have done. So where it becomes very interesting is that like most of the calculation work is done in an autonomous manner, but we need to have a human in the loop, right? You don't want to be essentially introducing new products and essentially coming up with a recommendation that, hey, you were at 50 cents, all of a sudden you're doubling the price to $1, and then you're realizing that you're resulting in a lot of market share, right? So you don't want to go down all the way, right? So there is human in the loop, but the agents are able to run simulations, are able to provide emergent insights with regards to where should you be pricing. So that's one example in terms of strategy definition. The second one, which is like to Guillermo's point, is something that we are very familiar with around agents doing continuously market monitoring with regards to volatility, regulatory changes, right? So when you look at your phones, you see all these news briefs come in, right? Like all of that is through automation, right? Like, so now you're beginning to see agents that will execute a trade. So if they see a security moved by X, they can take all of that information and execute a trade end to end, right? So now you're going into that. And then, so that's on the definition side. I'm also beginning to see autonomous agents being deployed on the execution side, right? So this is where Vijay, I was just trying to be a little bit together. Around supply chain, right? So flights get delayed, right? So all of a sudden now you have rebooking happening, right? So when you travel, all of a sudden you get an information saying that, hey, your flight got canceled. An agent monitored whatever available options is, and it starts spitting out an answer to you on the get-go. It doesn't wait for you to make a call. It tells you, here are your options. Some of that is through automation, some of that is through agents, but that's another simplified example of where they are. And then Guy had talked about, right, end-to-end chatbots, right, which is essentially, right, hey, I want to take PTO between X date and Y date. That's essentially the lowest form of automation and agents that can take that query, ingest it, and give you very specific answers around what policies you need to be. And that's similar for expenses, that's similar for PTO tracking. But those are the types of examples where I've seen it being implemented on the strategy definition side, execution side, but it's a continuous loop, right? You don't want to be essentially be doing one thing and then realize that the other one is completely out of sync. So that's the few examples that I think of that companies are beginning to implement on the agent side and implementing them going forward.
I'm
Thanks,
so
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, Guilherme, go ahead.
I'm so excited about this prospect about using agents within the context of strategy, especially in the part of strategy formulation, because I've gone through strategy formulation processes a few times in many industries, and it's very hard to deal with the volume of information you have to consider simultaneously while defining a strategy, right? It's the macroeconomics, the value chain, the supply chain, the markets, competitors, and so on. It's a very complex analysis to be done. And on the very next day you've done it, it's outdated, right? Because the world shifted already, some new competitor came in, some supplier is not financially stable, or, it's extremely dynamic, and any one of these changes can impact your strategy, right? So I see the use of agents in this context, like continuously monitoring the environment and detecting relevant triggers to alert, hey, you have to take a look at this because it can have some serious impact on the ongoing strategy that you're implementing, right? So it can deal with a lot of information at once, something that a human wouldn't be able to, right? Read all the news in the world, read all the regulations that are being passed in the world, and so on.
Right, Guillermo, like that was when I was at Moody's, one of the constant struggle I used to have every morning before the markets open, because it's a global company. A lot of things happen in Asia, a lot of things happen in Europe before the time you wake up in United States. And that used to be one question that used to be, what has changed overnight that I need to be aware of? And what does it mean for the organization on a day-to-day basis, right? So we had to put a lot of automation to collect, synthesize, and put it in a manner that at least there were many big changes, or these are all like an amalgamation of small things, and then the only one thing that matters is so being able to identify, being able to synthesize and summarize and provide it in a manner that's helpful. So that was an ever-evolving process, and I agree with your point that like this is where I am so excited about as well myself.
Go ahead, Adriana. Sorry.
Adriana.
No, yeah, compliment. So we were used to do to do risk assessment once every other year, every year. But now, so we need to do this dynamically every day, and not only to identify risks and evaluate the level of risk, but compare our projects, our actions, how they are mitigating or taking the opportunity that we are identifying on the risk assessment. So I think this is a huge evolution that the Agentic can do, because now we can have dynamic risk assessment and have our monitoring of our results based on the risks as well.
Thanks, Adriana. This is a very interesting conversation. I have a few more questions in mind, and especially Daljit, you've worked with BCG, Deloitte. You are able to see how agentic AI is making a difference in, say, the scope of services provided by these firms to corporate clients, the length of these services, the quality of these services. I think perhaps that's something we could touch upon a bit later on as we go down, right? You are able to see the shift in how consulting used to be, in the pre-AI era, and how some of these things are now, changing very rapidly as we speak. And Guilherme, you've been with consulting yourself. You've spent a lot of time with Falcone. So I think there are insights that we could draw from your experience. I would encourage our audience to share their questions in the chat, which we would take at the end of the webinar. I would like to keep the flow of the conversation going, and then make time at the end so that we can address these queries that our audience have. At the same time, those who have joined us today for this webinar also have the opportunity to get access to an exclusive preview to an AI-enabled enterprise strategy platform. So if we have people in the audience who would be interested in actually seeing that how technology today can be implemented in order to simplify strategy management at the enterprise level, to manage performance, KPIs, if you are using OKRs, if you are following methodologies like MBO. So how, enterprise risk management. So if you are looking for solutions which are based on technology that is currently available in the market and would like to get a preview, see a demo, please type demo in the chat window, and our team will get in touch with you to set up this exclusive, session where we can help you, guide you through a technology platform that is available for implementation today and is being used by organizations globally. With that, I would like to move to say the next part of the conversation. We had Adriana tell us about agentic AI, generative AI. Daljit threw some light on, okay, how can we use agentic AI for strategy formulation? What were some of the challenges that organizations used to face previously, which have been addressed quite effectively with the use of agentic AI, and where do we see this progress? From you, Guilherme, I'd like to understand that, okay, we have the strategy in place now. Now, what role can agentic AI play in the implementation and management of this strategy at the enterprise level, right? Because let's not forget, we've always had these excellent consulting firms around, McKinsey, BCG, Deloitte, KPMG, and they've always been very good at putting together these strategy plans. I think where most of the failures happen is when it is time to implement this strategy, when it is time to ensure that we are able to manage effectively and ensure continuous improvement across the organization. The implementation and management of strategy is not a static thing. You have a plan, and then you have to make sure that everybody in the organization understands their objectives, their KPIs, their role, and there is a way to continuously monitor how we are performing against our objectives. And so I would love to share your thoughts on, okay, where do we see the changes coming in with the use of agentic AI and say generative AI and these, systems and tools together?
So there's so many points of interaction with agentic AI and strategy management as a whole, not just the formulation, right? But the next steps as well. I'll try to address a few points, but just to give the context, I'll share a PowerPoint slide here. This slide is I used on our first webinar, right? Describe the concept of strategy management, right? I'm not going to go through it all today because we do have the first webinar available in the community. So if you're curious about this, I recommend you take a look at the first webinar for this year. But the idea here is strategy management, or it's the strategy formulation. So here is just some generic steps for strategy formulation. We have the strategy communication here with strategic maps, and the strategy, the planning. How are we going to implement this strategy? So we cascade goals, we create projects, we create action plans to meet the projects, and we budget everything. So with that, we have a strategy plan, right? Not just what the strategy is, but how are we going to implement it? Then we come with the execution, strategy execution, implementation of the action plan and projects, monitoring of this, all of this. So systematically verifying the results in the tactical level, usually monthly results meetings and so on. And this whole PDCA cycle is within the strategy management execution cycle, right? And finally, we have to take a look at the strategy itself from time to time. Is it still valid? Was there any new movement in the market that changed the context and we have to review the strategy? And if we do, we have to start all over again, right? So within this strategy management model, I see many items, many points of contact with agentic AI, or where agentic AI can help execute some of these activities, right? One example would be project scheduling. So out of this whole strategy execution, you might have, a number of projects to execute, and they will compete among themselves for resources, for time, for attention. So the agentic AI can help coordinate this scheduling so that you will have a better chance of actually executing the projects to the point, to the objective that you're looking for. So this is a realm of agentic AIs that are being developed, and we're seeing them come out in the market in project portfolio management, right? And within the projects themselves, the scheduling of activities, right, is another activity that agentic AI can help do. And we're also seeing a few agents, with that mission coming out to the market. All of that falling into budget as well is another point of contact that I see, the budget planning within organizations. Usually it's this extremely time-consuming activity that takes, a couple of months, 3 months out of the year, where people dedicate, so much time to budgeting next year's plans and negotiating and making everything fill in, the gaps. So this is another point that I see a great potential for agentic AI to come in and speed up that process and reduce a lot of man hours that are put in this process, right? The budgeting process. But there's one specific case that I'd like to draw more attention to, that is this strategy critical analysis. It's a little bit of what I mentioned with after Daljit's talk. That is the continuous monitoring of the premises that you had when you established your strategy, and the monitoring if that strategy is still valid today, or should we rethink the strategy, right? So I'm going to bring here a diagram. I anonymized it. It's actually a work we're doing with a client, just to bring something more tangible, right, to share with you guys. So this project is to create a strategy monitoring system, and it's a multi-agent structure that is orchestrated so that the agents can interact with themselves in a coordinated way. Right? So basically,
Gay, sorry, I'll just interrupt you for a second. Is that on a different slide, or are you going to just
no,
take us through?
I thought I was sharing this slide here. Let me share again because apparently,
Okay,
can you
now
see
I see.
this?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
let me try again. Can you
We
see?
can see it now. Yeah, we can
Okay,
see it
well,
now. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. So basically, we have two sets of agents. One set is looking outwards to external read agents, AI agents. So they're accessing real world information like regulatory bodies, publications, macro economy sites, news sites, geopolitical sites. So it's a group of agents specialized in their specific monitoring issue, like climate change, for example. So an agent that reads only climate change issues. And so I have a series of, these are just examples, right? So regulatory compliance agent that is monitoring regulatory body output, market monitoring agent. So the specific client's market or even suppliers and so on. Financing agents. So looking at macroeconomics and looking at the company's investment plan, for example. So these agents, they are looking outwards and detecting change, relevant change, right? The keyword is relevant, relevant change in the environment and in the premises which the strategy was formulated. And there's another group of agents that are creating the context where the external agents will use. So this context is extremely important for you to monitor that particular company strategy, right? Because if I'm talking about regulatory compliance, uh, of what industry, of what value chain that company is integrated with, right? So um, I have to give the context for the external agents to deliver on identifying relevant changes, right? So these context creators, AI agents, can be like value chain mapping agent. So this company is within this industry. There are these players, these suppliers, these um, clients, right? Supply chain mapping agents, cash flow analysis agents. So you can have a series of agents that are reading data from that specific company, like ERPs, data lakes, and even obviously like the strategy and tactical plan. So for me to know if some change is relevant, I need to know what is that company's strategy, right? And what are their marketing plans? What are their production plans, and so on. So I have this series of databases where the context creation AI agents are reading from and creating a context, right? All of these agents are feeding into this context, and these agents that are monitoring outside the company interact with the context to identify relevant triggers, right, for that strategy monitoring step within the greater strategy management process, right? So all of this is orchestrated. So how these AI agents interact with themselves, there are already quite a few orchestration solutions in the market to coordinate all of these specialized AI agents to have a single relevant output, right? So I brought this example as something that we're working on with an energy company today, and we're creating this. So this is the kind of solution that we're seeing come out of the market to the market, right? To help monitor strategy. So one of the steps of strategy management, right? I hope I was.
No, this is. Thank you so much for bringing this illustration to the discussion and for sharing all this information with us, which I hope will help our listeners get a preview into how across industries agentic AI and similar solutions are actually being implemented as we speak. And alongside that, I would like to remind our listeners that if they would like to see a demo of solutions that companies are actually using in today's day and time, they can just type demo in the chat window, and our team will reach out to them to find out when it might be convenient for them to actually join a session where they could see some of these solutions in action as they are being used by some of the largest companies globally. So yeah, please go ahead if you would like to see a solution which uses AI for implementing strategy, managing risk, helping with people performance, continuous improvement. Just type demo in the chat window and we'll have someone from the team reach out to you and set up a session so that you could actually see AI in action, incorporated in a comprehensive management platform. I think this is also a good time to run a second poll and get an understanding of what the experience of our listeners has been with the use of agentic AI, specifically for strategy management. So it would be great if you could share with us whether you are hands-on with the use of AI agents in strategy management, or you've just started dabbling into this and would like to learn more, or at this point in time you have absolutely no exposure as to how AI agents are being specifically for strategy management across the organization. So we see that we have a fair distribution of people in the group. So 40% of our audience currently has not seen the use of agentic AI, specifically in strategy management. We have another 40%, who are just starting to figure this out, and it's fantastic to see that there are about 20% who are quite hands-on and have the exposure to the use of agentic AI in strategy management in large corporations. So again, I would be repeating myself that listeners who are just becoming familiar with the use of technology, agentic AI, platforms using AI for strategy management, I would encourage them to type demo in the chat window so that our team can then reach out to you and organize a session where we could actually take you through a technology platform which has AI incorporated and is being actively used for managing strategy at the enterprise level. Now, I see that time is running very swiftly, and there are one or two things that I would like you all to weigh in on. So we saw that how agentic AI is increasingly playing an important and independent role in strategy formulation and its implementation at the enterprise level. Now, Adriana, Daljit, I would like to hear from you that what are the potential risks that you see emerge with the amount of autonomy we've been talking about that agentic AI can operate with, right? So we are talking about a non-human making decisions, and very important decisions on behalf of an organization. So I think it's important to also consider the implications of this. What new risks do we see emerge? What are the dangers that organizations should be mindful of, and how can they mitigate these? Because we don't envisage a scenario where organizations will stop themselves from the use of agentic AI. That is out of the question. So what we need to discuss is, okay, as we move forward with the use of agentic AI, what are the risks we need to be mindful of, and what could be some mitigation measures? So Adriana, let's begin with you. If you could share some thoughts about this.
Thank you. So since we are talking about strategy, one important thing is we need to define a clear purpose and the vision of the future. But more than ever, we need to make sure that we do the right thing aligned with values. Sometimes we use the values just as a piece of market on our strategy. But now with AI, we need really to make sure that we implement protocols, because to ensure that the generative AI that is orchestrating all the solution or all the architecture will be aligned with those values. So I think that is a point that we need to pay attention. And also, since we're talking about generative AI, we have all seen the AI hallucination, right, with the assistants. So we need to keep in mind that the generative AI was trained with the open internet. So it has the best and the worst of everything that we have in our society. So we really need to make sure that we have those protocols, that we have ways to have feedback, continuous feedback, and audit of, to oversee what the agents are doing. And also make sure that we understand that the generative AI will strive to give us one answer. So, and it was trained to not copy the training data and really understand the context and give us a original answer. So now with the agentic AI, we can really be specific, but sometimes we are trying to use the assistants while we would need to be using the agents, because the agents, we can really specify those protocols. So I think those points were important.
And thanks, Adriana. Yeah, Daljit, go ahead, please. Yeah.
So Rina touched on a few things. I tend to think about strategy, as Guilherme was talking about, as a moral compass, right? It tells you where you want to go. More and more as agentic AI becomes a reality in our daily life, it's turning into more into an autopilot, right? So, but you still need human beings in the loop. You need wherever it is modulating, so that way you don't introduce systemic bias into it, right? So the way I reframe the question is, right, what parts of our strategic process could be continuous, autonomous, versus which pieces need to be adaptive, so that way you have right governance structure in place, right overseeing in place, right? So the two places where I would be very cautious about it is, right, because if you are deploying large scale agents, either supervised or unsupervised, they tend to run on autopilot, which means their decision velocity is very high. As human beings, we cannot process all this information. And then if you are sending me all this information every 20 minutes new, I have not yet processed the last batch of information. How can I realize it? So that's one part of it, which is decision velocity, and how often, how much are you asking human beings to implement it? That's number one. The second part of it is essentially the core aspect of it, which is human oversight, both upstream and downstream decisions. So you want to have human beings in some form or shape involved to monitor the intent, ethics, and the narrative, because otherwise it's all mathematical models. It spits out answers, probabilistic or non-probabilistic, which doesn't take into account into emotions. And if human beings have to implement it, you want to be aware of it. So that's the second part of it. The third part, which is very important in all of this thing, is traceability, repeatability, versus a complete black box, right? You don't want to have systems that you can't replicate because it has learned and now it has predicted a different answer and you can't replicate. Since you can't replicate, you can't fine tune where problem was or is, so that way you can coach, guide, upskill people. So those would be the three places I would think about, because at the end of the day, it's folks like you and I who have to implement it and live with the decisions. Agents are enablers, but not a replacement for us.
Yeah, thanks, Daljit. Adriana, you touched upon hallucinations. Daljit, you also, without referring to the word exactly, talked about how humans need to be at the point of decision making or review, or there has to be a corporate governance. So we have a question from Hasib here: that how do you manage hallucinations when implementing agentic AI? So I think the two of you addressed that too a bit. If we have more time towards the end, which seems unlikely, but we'll see. If you can spare maybe 5 more minutes, we could go a bit deeper into the questions that we have from the audience. Guilherme, in the interest of time, I would like to ask you if you have, if there's anything you would like to add as far as the dangers and the mitigation measures go, and then also let us know what you think are the key takeaways for people listening into this webinar today. When they go back, what should be, let's say, the 1, 2, or 3 things that they need to do? And one of the questions that we have is, how can they upskill themselves? So Shweta Jain has asked us that AI is redefining the org model. So, how can users, they can keep their experience relevant and stay ahead of the curve? So what is your advice?
I'll address this question about the hallucination.
Yeah.
This is in one aspect a technical problem, right? That has to could have technical solutions to it, and another aspect, it's a model problem, because it's intrinsic to the generative model, to have hallucination in some level, right? So one way that this is being dealt with is by creating an iterative process and AIs that interact amongst themselves, right? So when you have one AI and you put one task for it, there's a chance that it will hallucinate, but you can mitigate this issue by making it an iterative process, saying check your sources, and with that you reduce this risk. And another way is by having two AIs interacting amongst themselves. So this is a field that has been evolving very quickly, right? But you can even have smaller AIs that doesn't have all the parameters that ChatGPT has and so on. But they are more focused on that specific task, and they interact with each other. So you have like more than one AI seeking the answer and validating each other's answers, right? So there are some technical solutions that can be applied to minimize this hallucination issue. I don't think we have a elimination of the risk solution yet, but I do think we will have a practical elimination of this issue coming from the technical side, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. And then Daljit, if you could share, some takeaways for our listeners today, and also if there's any advice on how they could keep themselves ahead of the curve, upskill themselves, if you have any thoughts or suggestions about that.
Yes. So Vijay, I'm assuming it's Shweta. Shweta and I have known each other for years. She's a very accomplished leader at one of the large biopharma companies, or used to be. So her question shows her willingness to upgrade and upskill herself. So this is terrific. The few places to start is right, like read about what's going on in the world, right? There are lots of free courses available on Google, on Microsoft website and on Amazon, where you can sign up and just learn the basics of it, right? IBM offers the same thing, right? So these are free resources that are available. Most of these courses take between an hour and 10 hours of commitment, so it's not a huge time sunk in terms of commitment. That's first. Two is, I think, use whichever tool you use the most, right? So if you spend a lot of time looking at companies, go to Google or any other chat GPT as an example to say, like, what are the best tool to do company research, and start implementing that in your workflow, right? Whatever that workflow is, right? So that's essentially, now you've learned something, you started to use it on a day-to-day basis. Over a period of time, what you will find is essentially then you will figure out how to configure that tool, how to use it, and compare and contrast to 2 or 3 of those, and continue to build upon that, right? So think of skills not as just one-off, but as a repertory of things that you're trying to build within your arsenal. So company diligence could be meeting preparation, could be meeting summarization, could be. So these are all skills you can pick, and over a period of time, you can build on that. So once you have gone through this curve, then there are additional tools, courses, and self-learning opportunities that are available that can help you build agents. Start with a simpler one, keep on going on top of that. Most of the companies offer some version of a free curriculum that you can start with, and then you can layer up on top of that. That's the simplest answer to the question that Shweta asked.
Thanks, Daljit. And to that, I will add that, Shweta, if you'd like to actually see a solution in action, just type demo in the chat window, and we'll have somebody reach out to you to see when you might have time available to actually see a comprehensive technology platform utilizing AI in integration. And Adriana, what are your thoughts on
Yeah.
what should be the priorities for people?
Yes, quickly, just saying that we still heard a lot of people scare about AI now replacing not only the operational activities through robotics, but also the mental and supervision activities that consultants and managers do. So, but we should look the way that Daljit was saying, that now the agentic AI opens a huge opportunity and a new realm of opportunity of specific AI developments, because now there's no a barrier of entry. So there's no need of like having like a 5 years science engineering course for you to be able to develop the level of knowledge that you need in terms of coding and stuff like that is minimal. And also for commanding, so we now have natural language, so any person can give a command for the machine. So that has democratized this world of technology. So I think this is a huge opportunity for us to have like a big evolution on the way that we use our mind, user intelligence, experience and knowledge, even intuition. So I think we have this opportunity, and soon enough will become like an open world of development that many people will have opportunity to enter and participate.
Thanks, Adriana. I see that I've overshot the time that we had set, so I would not want to continue imposing on the time of our speakers and the listeners who've been very patient. I see a lot of them have sat with us for the entire duration of the conversation, which I must say is rare, right? So I hope that you all had a great learning experience listening to our speakers here, and I hope to see you all again in future Actio webinars. We are always trying to bring experienced speakers together so that we can have people in the corporate setup get access to what's happening in the real world, how things are. There's a lot of hype around AI right now, but our objective is to clear this hype from what actually is actionable and available today, and I hope we've been successful. in that. So with that, I'd like to thank Adriana again, Daljit and Guilherme. Wonderful talking to you, and thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And thank you everyone for joining us during this webinar today.
Thank you again, Vijay, Daljit, and Adriana. Very nice meeting you guys again here, and hope we talk soon again.
Great. Take care, everyone. Thank you. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.